Good afternoon and welcome to your Literacy Across All Content Highlight. I am Mrs. Davis with the Elementary Mathematics Department, here with
Mr. Lee from the Office of Talent Development.
And today our highlight is focusing on elementary mathematics, using our literacy strategies to unlock a prompt in mathematics. So Mr. Lee, what would be some strategies that we would use?
There are a number of strategies that we encourage students to use when unlocking prompts. For today's purpose, there are going to be 3 steps that we're going to use. First, to read and reread the prompt for clarity.
Continue.
The next strategy that we ask students to use when unlocking a prompt is to underline important information. And the third is to circle verbs that give directions.
All right, so here is our problem. So we will do our first part of reading the problem to get a gist of the understanding of what's going on.
A town has 4 elementary schools. Students are collecting rainwater that will be used to water plants. Each school has a rain barrel for storing the rainwater that is collected. Each barrel is the same size. The fraction of the barrel filled at each school is shown in the list below. Ashbury Elementary, 2/6 of the barrel. Brightwood Elementary, 1/2 of the barrel. Fairview Elementary, 2/3 of the barrel. Glenwood Elementary, 2/4 of the barrel. Which school has the greatest amount of rainwater in its barrel? Which school has the least amount of rainwater in its barrel? Explain your answer using words, numbers, and/or drawings.
Okay, so we have had a chance to read the problem. So now let's go back and actually use our reading strategies. So we're going to reread and identify any important information. And I will underline that as Mr. Lee rereads the problem.
A town has 4 elementary schools. Students are collecting rainwater that will be used to water plants. Each school has a rain barrel for storing the rainwater that is collected. Each barrel is the same size.
Okay, that's very important. When we're making a comparison, we need to be comparing the same size. Okay?
The fraction of the barrel filled at each school is shown in the list below. Ashbury Elementary, 2/6.
Okay, we need to know that.
Brightwood Elementary, 1/2. Fairview Elementary, 2/3. Glenwood Elementary, 2/4.
Now let's see if we can identify the question that's being asked.
Which school has the greatest amount of rainwater in its barrel?
Okay, we see this question mark, so we're going to underline the question. Which school has the greatest amount of rainwater in its barrel?
Which school has the least amount of rainwater in its barrel?
And that's our second question.
I notice that you're circling. You circled the question marks.
So that will help me focus in on there are the questions that I need to answer.
All right, so that's that third literacy strategy. Explain your answer using words, numbers, and/or drawings.
Okay, and so we have some choices of how we're going to explain our answer. So we understand the problem. Now let's use some math tools to actually do the calculations for this problem. So we know that we are comparing the amount of rainwater in each of the barrels. And so we are going to use a visual model to represent the amount of rainwater for Ashbury, which is 2/6. And I am using some fraction tiles to support our reasoning today. So when we use a visual model, it helps us to see how to solve the problem. Ashbury has 2/6, so I have my pieces here, my fraction strips that represent each of the fractions. So I will need 2 of the 6. Okay, Brightwood has 1/2. Fairview has 2/3, so that will mean 2 of the thirds. And Glenwood has 2/4. Now using my fraction pieces, it helps me to see the comparison of these 4 schools. Mr. Lee, what do you notice about our comparisons?
I notice immediately that Brightwood Elementary and Glenwood Elementary have equivalent amounts.
Okay, these two pieces, 1/2 and 2/4, are the exact same size. So
They
when
are.
we have two fractions that are the same size, they are called equivalent. What else do you notice, Mr. Lee?
I notice immediately that Fairview Elementary with 2/3 has the greatest amount of water.
So we can answer the question, which school has the greatest amount of water in its barrel? So we know that Fairview has 2/3. So it is the greatest. Okay. Now, what other question?
The other question is which school has the least amount of rainwater? And that would have to be Ashbury. It has 2/6, and I see that 2/6 is less than 1/4 and less than the 1/2 at Brightwood.
Okay. And so explaining our answer, we can actually use our math symbols to do that. So we could write a math comparison. So we see that 2/6, if I give 2 dots, compared to 2/3. So if I look, I see that 2/3 is the greater amount. So if I give 2 dots to the larger quantity and 1 dot to the smaller and connect the dots, I can see that 2/6 is less than 2/3. This has been Mrs. Davis with the Elementary Mathematics Department and
Mr. Lee from the Office of Talent Development.
And this has been your Literacy Across All Content highlighting elementary mathematics. Thank you for joining us.